And today's video I have another boombox. This is one I normally wouldn't touch. It's a Teac. Normally not very great quality, these things, but the reason I grabbed this one is because it's actually got an auto reverse deck in it. I'd say this one's, I don't know, it could be late 80s, could be getting into the 90s, definitely the earlier end of the 90s or later end of the 80s type of one, but it probably has a Tanashin mechanism in this, I think, looking at it. And the other one I think is another Tanashin. Usually they come in pairs, of course, but not 100% sure. But it's got a kind of A-shaped center slide plate, and I can see the two little auto stop things. I'll have to find out what mech it was again, but I was just about to buy something off eBay because it had, I think, the same mech in it. I'm hoping this one's actually going to turn out to be a different one. But I did buy a Tanashin boombox, which I'll finish doing a video on one day when I get an IC for that. It's got an audio issue, but that had two Tanashin mechanisms, two different ones that I didn't have. Hopefully this one's got another one that I didn't have. And it looks like someone's got some wing nuts on the bottom of the speaker, so I assume they were mountable to something. Someone's modified that. But yeah, it's got this BBS bass boost system. I wonder how great that is. It's got an LED in the volume control, so I wonder if this was actually a remote one-touch recording. It's a PC45. And I actually used to work for a agent for Teac, and we used to fix some of these things, and a lot of them are early made in China stuff, and they're pretty junky. This one's made in Korea, so it's a bit better than the Chinese, but still pretty low end. Could be an LG or something, or Gold Star as they're called back then. Teac did rebadge a bit of Gold Star televisions and stuff, and some of their audio, not the worst stuff out there, but not the greatest either. We've actually got outputs for surround speakers. We've got the beat cancel or oscillator frequency switch, CD line in. This was around the time they probably started coming out with some CD players in them. Hyper bass on the speakers. It's got a decent sized woofer in it. It's got a port or vent, not the fake one underneath, but one to the side there. And even a proper cone tweeter in it, so it probably doesn't have too bad speakers. And we've got a BBS control, if it still works alright. FM stereo tuned and record LEDs. Why have we got an LED there? I don't see anything that suggests this is remote control, so it probably isn't. It's probably just for looks. We'll get this powered up and see what it actually does. It's supposedly all in working order, but nobody really believes that with second-hand electronics, because normally they're not. Okay, how do we turn it on? Surround on off. I've got a tape radio, AM, FM. Oh, here we go. Tape radio.
Preying on you and your musicianship.
Yeah, tune light, graphic equalizer.
You know, the first 6 months we were there was
a whole 3 bands plus a balance control. Both channels are running.
We're still dying left and right. My wife and I and dog were hunkered down in a winter cabin for at least 6.
CD line in and tape. Let's see if tape actually functions. Well, it's going one way. How do we change direction? Reverse mode. That doesn't do anything so far. Or is that just, that sets reverse mode? How do we make it? Oh, direction. There it is. Yeah, it's got the fixed head, so it's like a car cassette player, like a twin head, double face sort of head. Well, not really double face, but double, the whole face of the head's got a head on both sides of it, and they have a switch somewhere in the mechanism that I think's connected to the pinch rollers or something, and there's something slides across there. It switches it from one head to the other. And this, yeah, I can see the little bit rocking up and down. This is a 1021Z, I think they were, Tanashin, which was often paired with an auto reverse. So I really just want to get the front off this at the moment and have a look. Someone's added some great big speaker wires to this thing. They're not original. I guess by boombox standards, they're kind of monster cables. They're just sort of standard like mains cable or 12 volt wiring 1mm or so squared. How do these work? Oh, are they already out? Oh, maybe they're already loose, they're just not locked in. Oh, you slide it that way to lock it, so it's unlocked. Oh, they come off nice and easy, so that's something. Be interested to see if the speakers have actually got a brand on them. They may well say Gold Star or something on them. Now, what screws have we got? Looks like all these holes. Yeah, one in under the battery cover. At least it's all in nice, clean, reasonably clean condition, like not horrible amounts of dust in them on the back here, surprisingly. No leaked batteries. So it's not too bad. And it actually works, which is the amazing thing. Now, where's the other screw? There, hiding there. It looks like we may need to unscrew the circuit board, RCA and speakers. Let's see if that's at least, I don't know, maybe not. That's just if you want to get the board out. This one's the front comes off type of one. No, you don't even have to take the knob off. That's alright, nice and easy. There we have it. I think that's possibly a 1051 mech or 591. I think the 591 was a later one. There is a version of the auto reverse that has two of these little pieces. I think that's what the other one I was thinking of buying has. So hopefully that is a different deck again, so I can get another one ticked off the list if I can buy the thing at a reasonable price. I do want to try and get all the main Tanashin mechs, but this one's recognisable. It's got these little arms that pivot up and down to this little centre pair of arms. It's got this kind of, like I say, kind of a capital A shaped centre part. I think there's another one of their mechs is similar. I think there's a version of this one has a rotating head. There's the version with a fixed head, so that might be the only real difference. But usually if you've got a Tanashin on one side, you also have it on the other. So if it's an auto reverse plus a TN21 of some sort, 21Z, either with this little up and down piece or the one with a diagonal bit of metal is probably the easiest one to see from the outside, then you're pretty well guaranteed that the other half will be from the same company. So yeah, I didn't even remember this model existed or know of its existence, but I spotted it in a second-hand store. And so everything I do now is, every time I see something, it's check if it's auto reverse. If it is, press the eject button, see if I can see what sort of mech. And it looks like I was completely correct on this one, which is good to know. I couldn't even be 100% sure this one. I forgot what the little plate looked like on that. I've got to get better at recognising these ones. But this has got the more fancy type of auto stop. Often you find like a nice auto reverse deck with just one of the cheap, most basic 1021s with a little angled auto stop that goes to a little tension sensing lever. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to know for now, so we might give this thing a bit of a service. Get back onto it and give it a good service, and I might just quickly look inside one of these for my own, out of my own curiosity, see if there's any branding on the speakers. They probably want a good clean out anyway. But I think Gold Star used to brand their speakers. Other than that, there might be something on the boards if I bother to take them out. Do I need to again take the, yeah, just what does that say? It says something on it. Just 20 watt maximum, 6 ohm, 10 watt on the other one. Is that a date on this thing? 90. Looks like the 7th month of 1990. From the look of that, that could be a Gold Star part number there. I think they had numbers something like that. Yeah, we've got 90 ... up to 7. This has got the little round pointer ones that you set in the mould, I guess. guess we could even have a very quick look, see if there's a date on the motor, even though we know roughly what it's going to be. So it's a small screw at the top, very long at the bottom. I take it that one's connected to something small, but yeah, it does look like a Korean circuit board, that's for sure. Ah, there's another one there, it is, it's hiding under these LEDs. Oh, you can unscrew them as well. That was just one of the back screws falling out. I'll put that back there. This piece actually comes off now. Here's our motor. Now I think these wires are all going to have to be pulled out. They're glued in, of course. Carefully prise them up a bit. Nope. I'll have to crack the glue out with some side cutters or something, and being careful with that's the stretchy stuff, that's alright. Like the quick grip contact adhesive. That shouldn't be too hard to get out. Sometimes I use like really hard glues. That's got the worst of that out of the way. And now we're in business. Yeah, now we can get somewhere. So it's just a big hollow plastic. The whole bottom of it's hollow basically when you've got batteries down the very bottom, but there's nothing all the way up to here pretty much. There is a transformer in there that might have a brand on it, and we just got one of these Mabuchi motors. They don't really have anything to say for EG530 YD2B. Nothing to say what date. Okay, just pulled this thing to bits a bit more and got the mech out, got some photos of that, had a look at the electronics here. Bit of dust needs cleaning out. I'm still not sure what this is. It's either probably an LG made thing. It's got WDC 9800 on the boards. Couldn't find any other models with that model number, but you never know, might be something out there. This is also the same as a Seiko box. You know, it turns out these butterfly nuts on the bottom here are actually for a stand. I think it was like a little tripod type thing stuck out there somewhere, about that far or something, just a little stand to put the speakers on. So a bit of a weird design. Seiko MX1 I think it was. Couldn't find any info on the actual Teac itself, no service manuals or anything, but turns out this Tanashin mech is a TN521, which I've already got, so I didn't really get a new one at all. It's got the fixed head, and I think they make a TN59 or something is the rotary version of these. So there is a version of this deck with a rotating head. This has got the dual sort of auto reverse car cassette type head, and it's got a little switch here that when the mechanism changes direction, so they must have some other bits and pieces down here in the rotary head version, or maybe some less pieces down here in the rotary head version, because we don't have to flick the switch. I don't know what, actually there is a slide bar there to do that, possibly something, one of them they use the, depending which, there's some sort of slide bar to lift the pinch-rollers up and down. This looks like it's got a similar arrangement, so maybe that pushes the switch side to side to switch which direction of head it's using. But I think, I'll check the photos, but I think this is just the same mechanism again. So nothing new there. Seems to be like a late 80s one that came out with, this is a TN21Z, it's the one with a little oscillating lever, slightly nicer design of auto stop on it, and these must have been the auto reverse decks to go with them. For some reason some have fixed heads, some have rotary heads, and then they changed to different auto reverse mechanisms later on, it seems. There is a version that has two of these in it, but it's an auto reverse one. So they maybe just saved making as many parts, they went to that sort of design. And oh, looks like I've bumped the belt on this already, because it's attached to, stuck under one of the gears there, so I better see if these belts are any good, clean up the buttons. I'll give the main unit a bit of a clean up. I think everything was basically working, at least everything on this mech unplugs. Normally you wouldn't bother unplugging everything but I just did that so I can get some photos. We've still got the auto reverse lights attached, so I guess we'll see what these belts feel like. I guess I can actually just hold it still with that one. That slips ever so slightly, it's not too bad. And I guess the same with this, if we stop the belt on the other side, so if only one belt's slipping, I guess they'll both feel like they're doing it. I can actually get to the front of this motor easy, so that's got a fair bit of tension. That's a little bit slipperier, at least on that one. I think they're still half decent. Yeah, that's got quite a bit of tension. So I don't think I'll worry about changing the belts just yet. And yeah, there's nothing stamped on this deck at all, not a single bit of writing like you normally get with Tanashin. And if you're really lucky, you get a label that says what type of assembly it is. But I think most manufacturers seem to have preferred not to have them putting their brand all over the parts inside their units. But that's actually not very dirty for its age. I mean, the back of the deck looks like new. No corrosion or anything, which is nice to see. I guess we'll give those buttons a clean. That should make things look a bit better. A bit of greasy stuff on them as well, of course. But at least you can get to the edges a bit and get these little face bits that sort of hide the hole when the button's pressed down. And ideally, you really need to press every button down under the edges of each one, but you can do that afterwards probably. Yeah, the edges are all dusty on them, of course. If you really want them nice and clean, it's good to get every little part, but you can probably do most of that from the outside. And I'm going to press that to get the record button. Of course, the play goes with it anyway. Brush gets a fair bit of the dust out there anyway, so that's might be another way of doing it. Yeah, most of it actually brushes off, which is good. Well, don't press both at once. Shouldn't be doing that. And the heads are actually all clean. There's a little bit of use on the pinch rollers, but this thing I don't think it's done a lot of work. This is probably another one that was bought and ended up being used as a radio and not much else. Maybe it didn't get much use at all. But I mean, the capstans are almost clean. Just a slight bit of oxide. So this wasn't too bad to buy anyway, even though it's a mech I've got, because it's actually in pretty good condition, I think. So I've been having a little bit of luck with not getting really rubbishy stuff lately. Had a few things that are in good condition for a change, and clean condition. But anyway, I'll keep trying to get these other Tanashin mechs that I know about. There's a few I've managed to get, but I've also got another 4 or 5 to get, I think. Maybe 4. I mean, the other version, this isn't so important, but it'd be nice to see the one with a rotating head, and since they've given it a different mech designation number, I would like to get one of the rotary versions. Because that'd be another different variant, and the one with the 2 auto reverse things would be good, which is more a plasticky sort of mech like those ones. Don't know why they didn't just go straight to that when they designed these ones, but who knows. I'm trying to get the dirt out of the little impressed function markings on these buttons as well. Might have to do that from outside afterwards. So yeah, I would expect this to work fairly well. A lot of wiring on there, but nice to always see it. Always nice to see it with plugs. So that's the inside of the unit. What have we got in the way of? Probably a TA something Or is it an AN? It's an AN, I think, with those white bands on it. Amp chip. And there's a transformer down in there. Now they're Sam Young branded capacitors, so it could be Samsung, I guess. I'll have to see if I can find anything under Samsung boomboxes that could be related. Oh, it's going to look at sort of amp chip. I think it's an AN7148 amp chip. And we've got a what? TA7640 radio chips. That might help if I can ever find any circuits or anything. If they don't show a picture of the thing that looks the same, at least to have some idea whether it is the same chips or not. No other real markings on the board other than that weird crossing there. I don't know what that's meant to be, if anything. But yeah, it certainly could be Samsung made, and it's got to be one of the three main Korean companies, most likely. Any other chips? Because sometimes you will find Samsung chips. It just says M6900, and that one doesn't want to move. But I see a chip in the graphic equalizer area. There is something in there. Ah, that's the tuner. Another AN7333 in the graphic equalizer. Ooh, some of these little pots are starting to move. Oh, the dust in there is pretty bad. I better double check none of these things are scratchy, I guess, while I got it apart. Oh, volume knob's got a lot of muck on it. All these graphic equalizer things cleaned while you can. I think those little bits there are probably visible, are they? So that was all the dust removing. Yeah, they're somewhat visible. And can we unplug? There's the power in. Very well labelled too, so you can't really get the connectors wrong on it, which is always nice to see. Yeah, I'll just take that outside and get the dust off it. Okay, got it all cleaned up, looking a bit better. Scrubbed off some of the dirt around that surrounds thing and the handle and stuff. Still a couple of little bits here and there, but pretty good. So I've got it hooked into the speakers on the bench. Okay, I'll power it up and see what's going on. Radio's in the middle of that one. Oh yeah, sounds like it is.
Asked to talk about it all over the world.
Don't think there's any scratchiness there.
To the world as though Australia had shared.
So radio all seems to work. Doesn't look like we've got any scratchy pots or iffy switches, which is pretty good. Again, suggests this thing's lower hours, because a lot of these would have wore out pretty quick, I would think, with a bit of use. Direction change, no. That one, yeah. Well, at least they're nice and quick with a fixed head in them. You don't have to wait for they tend to take a little bit longer, I think, with a rotating head. They're fairly quick, but not perfect. Okay. That's the type of reverse mode. Either keep playing one side after another, or just play one side then the next side and stop. So it's actually got a couple of different reverse modes. And something you can do to make these even cleaner. This is quite dirty down the bottom and in the bottom of the tape decks and even the doors. You can just unclip these doors. Just making a bit of a note where the spring went. You should be able to just pop that out the front, leaving the spring roughly in place. So we have to think too hard when we put it back. And yeah, now you can really get all that dirt out of there. I'll take this outside and get the worst off outside, and then give everything a wipe over. Out you come. Oh, I think the spring's catching a bit there. That's how it's set. Oh, now knock the other one off. But yeah, if you at least keep them roughly in place so you remember how they went. But they don't really want to stay there, of course. Could really tape them in place if need be, but I'll take that out and give it a clean and put it all back together. Okay, to refit the doors, you can actually pop these back in without the springs attached. Fiddle them around to get them. There's a little bit goes through a slot there. Get them roughly in place. Ah, come on. Ah, something's catching here. Oh yeah, that thing's doesn't want to go back on. You can probably pin that in back on and then put the spring over the round bit there, but don't actually want it hooked over the door yet, just the pivoting post bit, because that bottom end of the spring's got to go in a little part of the front panel there. That's what puts the tension on it, and then we can flick this across and get the pin on. Oh, I said the spring came off there, didn't it? Anyway, we'll get that back into place at the bottom end. Make sure the door actually moves, feels like it's moving right, and then you can just hook this top bit back over. The long upper end just goes over the back of the door there. Make sure the slow release mechs are working reasonably well. I guess they should both come out at the same pace. They're a little bit off there. Oh, and I haven't cleaned the outer bit of this one yet. Well, this one bit you miss. Clean this little slot thing out. And this thing's actually close to mint condition, I think, which is surprising. Unfortunately not a particularly desirable or collectible boombox, being a Teac. But at least it's not the later Chinese era. These Korean ones are a bit better quality. I certainly wouldn't call them great, but looks like if they hadn't had too much use, they did survive alright. I guess technically the tape decks are Japanese, so that's something. The electronics aren't, but as you can see from this one, the electronics have survived really well. Even the switches and stuff, though, definitely something to look out for on Korean made stuff. But anything of any with any age on it can have dodgy and dirty pots and switches and stuff. Oops, we've popped that one back out, I think. Until you get them back together, they tend to be a bit easy to pop out. These, that's one of the sort of things that was not as good quality on these, the flimsy sort of plastic they made the doors out of and stuff. But yeah, it's got a few of the usual little light scratches on it, but the rest of it's very good condition once you clean all the dirt off it. Yeah, amazing. And one thing I was going to try and do is scrub. There's a bit of dirt embedded. I think I did actually give it a scrub, come to think of it, but it's now dried out. I can see there's still more there. Bit of dirty stuff in the little textured part, the grippy part of the edge of the volume control. They can often be quite hard. You've got to go over them several times often to get all the dirt out of those things. Yeah, probably got a few of my fingerprints on them now. But yeah, the rest of it's in very good condition, so I think we can reassemble this thing and maybe have a quick look. Oh, it's a bit of glue on there I haven't got off, just from where the price tag was, I think. Better be a bit careful because this has got that painted finish on it, almost a sparkly metallic paint type finish, so you've got to be a little careful. But I think these Korean ones were generally pretty good. They actually were reasonable quality with their paints, so you don't have to worry too much, but still best to be cautious. There's one little, is that a lump or something, or a mark there? But yeah, that's in surprisingly good condition. Just making sure all the switches are actually going through the holes, which they're kind of not, and all the graphic equalizer bits and all that. Something's catching here somewhere. That's it, you just got to jiggle everything right, just make sure you don't push any of them in and potentially break them. And I thought I had some screws left over, but of course I remembered one of these speakers is already apart, so I already had a look inside I think, so I don't know there's much else to see there. But yeah, looking at it, those, I just assume those wing nuts or thumb screws or whatever you want to call them were placed there by someone who owned it to do something, mount them on a shelf or something. But they definitely look like they're moulded, the little nuts are being, little moulding bits there to make them captive. They're just standard hex nuts by the look of it. I guess we'll maybe remove the speaker off the front, see if they at least come off this and give them a clean. Let's see what sort of condition they're in. Yeah, a bit of dust in there, that definitely wants to go, but I think that'll just brush out. Not very much at all. The hole is another thing. God, look at the dust down there, so I might even remove the speakers, take that outside and loosen off what I can and try and blow through the grills, I guess, and get everything out of there. At least I have to, there's a bit of white muck in there, I don't know what that used to be. But something got in there by the look of it. Yuck. See if we can get that off. There's a bit there, and I wonder if they got in there in the factory. It's not impossible, but it seems to have, almost looks like a bit of heatsink paste or something, you never know. But surely someone would have noticed if they bought one like that, but maybe not. Might even just give that a quick wipe with a cotton bud just to get the slight remaining dust on. There's actually some up on the top of here too, I didn't even notice. So I did the bottom of the cone, or most of the face of the cone, but there's a bit on top as well. And yeah, that's rather dirty, including the base port, the tweeter hole. Don't think there's too much down in the grill itself, but probably a bit on the back of it, so I'll take that and give it a dust. Okay, I cleaned one of the speakers up. One on this side, the other side's still pretty dirty. There is still, if you look on a downward angle, you can probably see there a bit of dirt in the actual grill part. I did spray it a bit and give it a scrub with a toothbrush, but there's still a bit there, so that might need a bit more work. I'll do this other one sometime. But all working well. Now we've got a surround button, I don't know what that does. Well, the surround doesn't seem to do anything. I don't know if it's meant to be like a stereo wide. We do have chrome / metal and normal tape selection. So a little bit more than you expect on most boomboxes. Might actually be worth trying it on the CD line in to crank some, I guess you could say, more decent quality sound through it. I mean, FM stereo should be pretty good, but it does actually have surround speakers, so that's obviously to switch them in and out. I guess I could hook up the other speakers maybe and see what that does. Well, I must say it sounds pretty bad. I'm not sure if that's just the speakers. I might hook it back up to the speakers here, but there's something definitely wrong with the sound on that. Almost sounds like it's distorting. When you turn up the mid-level on the graphic equalizer, sounds horrible. Almost like it is in some sort of weird surround mode or something, but I know I hooked the speakers up in phase, so it's not that, but they just kind of sound rubbishy. And once you turn it up more than quarter way, it is actually distorting in the real sense. Yeah, even in those speakers they definitely sound better, but it does sort of have a little bit of distortion early on with a little bit of treble boost. Sounds a bit better, but yeah, it's not a great sounding unit, which is not surprising with these. That's why they don't have the best reputation, because even when they don't break down and have all sorts of issues with the build quality, they generally often don't sound very good either. Now, I don't know what they did wrong with them, but listen to that, it's not just the speakers. It's actually, but they are definitely pretty dodgy speakers. I mean, that could be something to do with the age of them, or maybe they've had some abuse, but they don't sound like they're damaged. But yeah, even on CD out into some more decent speakers, not the world's greatest ones by any means, it still doesn't sound the best. When you get back from it a bit and you can actually hear the tweeters, which seem to be very directional, it does sound a little bit better. But yeah, still not a great sounding box. Maybe the fact it's got those things in the bottom of it and it's sitting weirdly on the bench or something could be an issue. I might even remove the butterfly nut things. Oh, they're actually bolts. Because that could be making the speakers vibrate a bit weirdly, I would think, because I think it's sitting on those rather than the 4 feet it's got, but it's still not going to sound awesome, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not sure it made a lot of difference, but I think I'll leave them out. And yeah, it's not the prettiest looking thing ever. Certainly not something you'd probably carry on your shoulder. More of a sort of home hi-fi system thing, I think, with all this sort of long length and great big speakers on it. Must be near a metre long, this thing. But yeah, it's a bit different. It's a different era. I did work on a few of these sort of era Teacs when I worked for a repair agent for Teac, and I don't have any particularly fond memories of it, but it was sort of a part of my life that I can remember, so it's kind of nice to see one in a strange way. I don't know if there's much point trying the... Actually, I've probably got some 3.5 adapters, so I can try those surround speakers out. So they are there, you can't really hear them much. Yeah, with them both facing the same way, I can't really tell the difference unless I put my ears up close to them. So I might disconnect these internal speakers. So just a very tinny sort of output to the surround speakers, which yeah, if you had them behind you somewhere in the room, I guess would probably do the job. So that's about it for that one. I'll give that other speaker a clean up sometime. Everything else seems to be working. The surround sound, yeah, nothing special. None of it's anything special basically, so no CD player. It's kind of getting to that era, at least in looks, that you'd expect a CD player. Some of the units of this era would have had one. And yeah, I can't say that I recommend the sound quality on this thing. Even with external speakers, it's not that great. I forgot to clean around the headphone socket. So I think we'll call it quits on that one for now, so thanks for watching.